No turning back. We have our ancestors with us. We're going to continue to dance with them. Dreaming them. Calling them. Being them. We are becoming what we were.
It is part of that Mayan prophecies.
7 triangles of light.
Keep walking. You are the spirit of Unapku. Keep walking. We the human, we are doing the spirit of Unapku.
People who say that the gods made them from corn. They planned their lives according to the heavens. Well-versed in astronomy, using a sophisticated mathematics, they calculated the movements of the night sky thousands of years into the past and thousands of years into the future. They knew that the universe moved in cycles. Their lives were ruled by the rhythms of the natural world. Planting and harvesting, birth and death, just as the great tree of life emerges from the earth.
Always they're connected. Science and religion.
In dreams, we learn from the Maya gods when to plant and when to harvest, when to set the fire, and when to do the corn ceremony.
What we're digging up, what we're coming up with is part of our history. And the men that lived here are some of the greatest men we've ever had. And it's the fact that we're getting to know more and more and more about the life of these people.
They still maintain their customs. They still maintain their ways of organizing their societies. And it's very exciting to see how much of the ancient Maya way of life is still alive and well.
Because American history does not begin in 1492 with Columbus. It begins in 200 BC with the first Maya king who wrote his name on a stone. What is happening now is the people who made these places, people like Yashpak or Bird Jaguar or Fakal, are getting back their voices. They are becoming real to us and speaking to the people of the 20th century about who built this place and why and what they felt and what they thought about the world. These are not anonymous people anymore.
You are the spirit of Unapku. Keep walking. We the human, we are doing the spirit of Unapku.
Yo.
Yo, I'm like
Check 1, 2.
I'm like 5 minutes late all day, bro. What up, my LA natives, my beautiful community? How are we doing? We are on, and we are on a little late. I apologize for that, but we're on Indian time. We get here when the dimension and the portal opens, and here we are. Once again, LA natives. Ooh, excuse me. And today, we have a brother by the name of J.D. Wolf. Stage name, huh?
J.D. WOLFROBE.
J.D. WOLFROBE.
J.D. WOLFROBE.
And
Kraken.
Armando decided, to have you on the show, and you've been at some of our events. You did the LA Natives, the first one, right?
Yes, correct.
And the Superman.
Yes.
And Armando was pretty into your art and stuff, so. I mean, I seen it too, but,
And you performed at the Farce.
Yes, we did perform at the Farce.
That shit's dope
now,
as fuck.
Here's where I think this LA Native show is going to be progressive in the sense, because you're not of native descent.
Correct.
You are of?
I have Slavic roots, Polish, Russian, and then Germanic, Norse roots, Celtic, and English and French.
Excellent. Okay, but you have a father that you did not know.
My father was never in my life.
Okay, but you know that he's not like half Mexican or anything.
No, I know he's mainly English and French.
Okay, so we know that you're of European descent.
Correct.
Now, I like your vibe, bro. You've always been humble, and I think this is a good show to show example on what we need to do as genocide survivors on how to relate with other, we can say, tribes. You're of another tribe, not of another race. You're not better than me or not less than me. You may have different customs and wisdoms, but you are your own sovereign tribe. If I have that perspective of you being your own sovereign tribe, then we can share information. And if that information is sensitive, hopefully we're strong enough to deal with it. And that's why you're here, I think. You know, and the fact that you're of Slovakian and I want to say Nordic.
Yes, specifically with Slavic culture breaks down into a lot of subsections, but I'm mainly extremely Polish, and then of course Germanic descent. And my grandfather and grandmother, they got like married in the 30s, and it was like unheard of that they were German and Polish. Like so.
Yeah, well, because Europe deals with its own racism against its own
totally.
people.
Well, yeah, that's the irony, is that like being Polish and German, and of course the Germans went after the Polish.
Absolutely.
So it's, but yeah.
Well, the beauty of what we're trying to do here is mend and heal, because we can't heal by blaming another race, nor can we heal by eliminating another race, because that's what white supremacy is. It's trying to eliminate a whole race. It's trying to do its best to, I don't know, evaporate them, extinct them. I don't know what the deal is, where, you know, a group of individuals that come from a specific place, which is, you know, Eastern European religion, you know, and the capitals of that. I don't like to be specific because it keeps them on their toes. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm not going to give you the whole answer of everything, you know, but I also don't like to blame a race of people. And I've always, I have to be honest, been in, I guess, what they call double jeopardy when it comes to this subject.
Right.
Because instinctively, I know that my people were very loving and caring. We wouldn't have greeted, we weren't bowing down to the Spaniard. We were very hospitable. We're like, you guys are dirty and you smell and you obviously are hungry, so we need to feed you. And we'll let the captains go through the role until you get to the top of the lineage of whatever you need, of whoever officials you need to. I'm imagining this. This is not, a lot of people like, oh, where'd you read that? I was like, look, I'm imagining it. This is my theory. Because we were very healthy people. No one can deny that we were healthy people.
Washing daily.
Absolutely. And had running water in our systems, and we had a sophisticated recycling system. I mean, we were, if anybody wanted to call anybody a vegan, it was during that time. I'm not saying that they didn't eat meat, but there was so much wisdom from thousands of previous year history that the Mexica were able to pick from the whole litter of knowledge. What worked, what didn't work, you know, what. So, anyways, I went on a little tangent right there.
Right.
But my point is that we need to come into a place where we're not judgmental over someone who is of European descent. And you're a very brave individual. I got to say that. For putting yourself out there, because, you know, some people could be very mean about this, you know, about this subject. But we have to learn how to deal with it, because it's not going away. And I'm not going to be Hitler. I'm not going to be somebody that says, no, everybody have fucking blue eyes or blonde hair or whatever of European descent. Man, there's a lot of people from Europe who really embrace our indigenous culture. Talk about that.
Oh, totally. I had an amazing opportunity in 2019. There's a gathering. There's actually a whole movement. A lot of people don't know this. And it's because I was introduced at least into the Sacred Lodge when I was 6 by an elder of the Muskogee Nation, Marcellus Bearhart Williams, who gave me my name. And so I was saying in 2019, there was this gathering that I found out about. It's a metal festival, but it's held on a Viking burial ground. And it's called Midgardsblot. And it's the largest gathering of Nordic throat singers. And I just said, oh, this is interesting. And even though, there's been this whole movement in the past 15 years where even aspects, I didn't even know that colonization had such an effect even on like pagan aspects of Europe, where like there's people who are now identifying as that and getting back into their ancient cultures practices. And so it's also seen, that there's this inner calling of connection to a lot of ancient cultures. And for me, starting a long time ago when I was young, that's sort of always been there, but I didn't really know it because not having a father and then having, I have a Mexica god sister, and then I have a Garufuna god sister as well. And so it was always something of being in places where I was like the only one. But I didn't really think about it. I just didn't really care. I just said, okay, well, I'm supposed to be here. Creator said I have to show up. So I think that's the same reason why I took that journey by myself to Norway. And it was really amazing to see that they had still, open bounds to all people of different cultures. They had a Chinese black metal band that plays ancient Chinese instruments show up.
Wow.
And share their gifts. And I feel that's what I think all this time is about, and what, people coming back together and fulfilling that sun cross.
It's a very difficult time to exist in the sense that we're dealing with the aftermath of it's a very few group of people, but it put a stain on everybody, and it left people very sensitive to just even saying the word European, right? Some people are like, I'm gonna be militant. I'm not even gonna, I can't be that. I need to know. I need to ask difficult questions so that you can understand the layers of surviving genocide, because some people will be like, I don't want to talk to anybody who is white just because, and you'll be like, well, no, the Nordic culture is very beautiful. And they're, no, they're murderers and they killed and murdered. And it's like, I have to let the person talk and be sovereign enough I have to defend sacrifice, human sacrifice. I have to defend a lot of things that this white supremacist narrative has made. So that's where the sensitivity and the difficulty in this conversation, but it's the best place to do it is on LA natives, because we're one community. And the way I just went up to San Francisco, and it reminded, because I used to live up there for a while, it reminded me of a lot of people who had commonality in the way I thought. A lot of people who read the Four Agreements and felt that their journey was humble. Can you explain a little bit of that?
Well, I think I read it many moons ago, and one of my other elders and teachers, who's Japanese, who my mom found. Well, I found him. That's what she says. I have a very close relationship with my mom. When I was about 6, 7, same time I met Bearheart, and so sorry. Get some water.
Yeah.
He was speaking in Arizona at an event, and I decided to go. And who also was speaking was Don Jose Ruiz, and I'd never met the brother. And thank you so much. And so it was around this time that I read his book. Well, I think it's before or after.
Is it the Four Agreements?
Yeah, the Four Agreements. And before he was about to just go on stage, he stops. Never met the brother before. He walks all the way to the back of the room and hugs me and my mom.
Oh.
And I was like sort of taken back. And I'm like, yeah, I didn't know, what to expect.
That would be like, oh.
Yeah.
I'm just putting myself in your shoes.
Like, yeah, I didn't know what to expect, and it was sort of like a shocker. And then I sort of, me and him started talking and had a different connection, and it was really amazing to be in his presence and then to share, his wisdom. And then he asked me to play flute one time while at that event. So I was just like, okay, I guess Creator put me in this weird, position for different experiences. And so just being open to it and not, staying in any fear of what others think or what things are supposed to be some certain way, and just letting it flow.
Right.
I feel
it's a certain soul that can do that, because not everybody can do that. It's hard to disconnect and not take things personal. That's why they can take advantage of us with algorithms, And for those that don't know what an algorithm is if you interact on IG, Facebook, anything, YouTube, there's bots, or how would I explain that? But people are learning what you like, and they're sending it right back at you. So if you happen to click on like police brutality, it'll pick up on that, and it'll start sending you more videos about it. And now all of a sudden you think the whole world is going crazy with, because that's how algorithms work. So they play on your emotions. And that's where we have to take the time to learn. And that's why we're here talking.
Yeah. And one thing I've learned from, my teacher, Michael Tamora, with meditation and his experiences is that just like algorithms, our mind is like that. And so we can get stuck on certain pictures of certain experiences, and it can sort of limit us from evolving past that trauma, because trauma at the end of it all can create everything, disease. It can, we're such powerful beings that we can manifest these different aspects into experience. And even if you had a traumatic experience in the past, of course, it can come up again if, we're not able to properly let go of that picture, if we're not stuck on it.
Right. And and I'm glad you brought that up, because I think that's the picture that a lot of militant, very wise, beautiful warriors out there get stuck on, is the tragedy that Europe brought. I personally have an opinion of, like, they don't even rule for 500 years. They had moments where they still were fighting and still trying to control people. So I can't give you that you were conquering. I mean, when I say give you, I mean the historians that write what they're saying.
Right.
They didn't have control of this landmass for very long. It's actually very short, considering the decades and decades and decades and hundreds and thousands of years that we have documented on this Turtle Island, And that goes back to ancient Mesoamerica and beyond, because that was prior to them. So if they're going back 26,000 years, and what's prior to them, I mean, they got wisdom from those people, And it goes back with the elongated skulls and the giants and the wisdoms that they had from the previous age. And, a lot of people are going to get upset at me saying that, because they're going to be, well, that's not improving. But we have to understand that white supremacist institutions suppress things they cannot explain or put into their narrative of dominance. That's a tough place to be in, bro.
Well, I think it's interesting, and this is, segue to what you just mentioned. Prior to 500 years ago, we weren't really identifying as colors. We, this, I know is controversial to a lot of people, but I listened to a lot of like everything, in question everything. But I listened to a lot of Moorish perspective, and especially when it comes to legalese.
That's a good example, because Moors travel. They're gypsies. They went and learned from everyone. And what my friend said was a bohemian.
Yeah, and I know it's a tricky thing because of the historical aspects of, I guess, claiming to Turtle Island and stuff like that. We won't get into that, but I think what's really interesting, at least from their legal perspective, is the aspect of the word white. And there's the other word white, which is spelled W-I-G-H-T, and it means like a supernatural entity. So who's to say, this is just another perspective, white supremacy is this supernatural entity sort of controlling things and created colors as a way of dividing people. I'm not negating, the past by any means, because it did happen. There was people of definitely my ethnic background that did have some part in colonization.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of benefit from it. And I know I'm not going to sit here and put all that shit on you. That's not what I'm going to do. No. And I want to make sure that the Ally Natives community knows that to be diplomatic, to be humble, to be wise, and to take ownership of the wisdoms of the past is to be nothing like they are, right? To have compassion and empathy for even the person that has to clean up the mess, right? And I point at you because really we rely on other whites to protect us when we speak up for ourselves. Not that that's a good thing, you know, it's never a good thing. We need to be able to speak up for ourselves and be eloquent enough and informed enough to protect us. That's what I love about the Moors, is that they're informed enough to protect themselves and protect every bit of the rights that they know. You know, they're very intelligent people.
Totally, and I feel.
But I wouldn't submit. But you know what I mean.
Yeah, I definitely feel like there's a lot of interesting connections that at least I've been observing lately between just indigenous culture and Moors perspective, and those that identify as Moors. So there's, I think, more conversations that need to be had, just like we're having this conversation right now, that need to be had between those communities, because I think we can all learn from each other and grow together and find other, solutions to other issues, especially in, colonized times and the society we're living in.
To me, it would be like creating good relations is regaining sovereignty, but you can't regain sovereignty by oppressing someone else. In other words, like if we were trying to say, as community organizers and an example, we can't ostracize a good voice. But here's my question, here's my curveball. With the pain that we all have suffered through genocide, not that we should stay in that loop because you mentioned a very important part, but we need to create a relationship so that you can go back to the community and create progressive thinkers just as yourself. So when we get to a point of discussion, we all are in a place of non-race. I don't think we're there now, but because this doesn't get solved in overnight. Learning, like, I'm a person, since I've walked in the road of the 4 agreements, I've always been honest and not lived a lie. But I have to say, this is a difficult show for me to do. But I'm using all my power and love of who my ancestors were to get through it. Not because I'm offended by you or your color, but it's kind of like, it's kind of picture like a concentration camp survivor, and he meets the kid of the guy that put him in there. That's where I'm kind of getting this mixed vibe, right? And I hate to put that on you, and this is my mirror, because it's not your fault. And I guess maybe what I'm saying is, how do you feel when people attack things that, like, maybe I didn't attack it, but I'm very, very forward about European culture. You have been of European descent.
Yeah, I personally don't take it personal, but that's I think through the different teachings, both Toltec and otherwise, with my different elders that I've had, and I'm really blessed to have great teachers that have showed up. Mm-hmm. So whether it's Michael Tamora, especially him, and Bearhart, like these ways that yes, there is pain, there's trauma, and people can project something on you, but it's not your business, and there's some healing that needs to come out of it.
Yeah,
there was a particular situation I remember. Michael has died 5 times, and after the first time he passed away, some members of the Lakota Nation asked him to go and do Sundance, and his wife was sort of against it, but he went ahead and did the piercing, did the whole experience, and he shared this one aspect of experience in culture where particularly another elder of another nation or relative that came, who saw that some of the people that were there of different descent, of different cultural descent, that were doing some of the practices, I think some of the ties, I believe, and they weren't doing it in a certain way that she was taught, and she got really upset about it. But there was a great healing that needed to come out of that trauma. And so even though there was a breaking point of drama and separation that had occurred, she was able to come back, and there was able to have forgiveness and say, look, this is just the way I was taught, And I'm sorry I got caught up on in being so tied to this. But I know it's a tricky thing with culture, because I know the aspects of cultural appropriation and stuff like that. And the biggest element of what we see today, of course, is I think the intention, the exploitation aspects of it. But at the same time, historically, you know, as it's been documented, at least from different instances, all culture in some ways at some point does appropriate in order to survive. And I feel that's very interesting to me, especially like there's no, from my Nordic side, there's no records, particularly to some extent, of drums being in their culture. However, there is the Sami culture, which is further north. They did have drums, and there was found a drum stick that happened to have runes on it. And that's something I've been learning to work with, because my culture did use the runes and did write them in stone, just like the Mexica culture, and also wood and other items. So I thought that was really interesting that you had this artifact that was found, where it was of both these different cultures. They're like, who was it, you know, or was that, you know, cultural appropriation? Where was the interling there? So, yeah.
I guess since we live in a culture that has like a Hollywood perspective, right? That we think that cultural appropriation means wearing clothing and maybe knowing a whole language. You know, we think that's it. I don't really think that's it. You know what I mean? No one can stop you from investing any amount of time into learning whatever you felt was taken from you. That's why I kind of like I'm really digesting the current situation that's happening for a lot of our community, because we're looking for someone to have the right answer instead of looking in our mirror, right? And challenging our souls. I really believe that there's individuals that do that. And during this time, I explained to you that early on in my career, it was about 2012. Prior to 2012, we had an elder come named Don Alejandro, who was from the Guatemalan, I think highlands, the mountains. He hadn't come out, and anyways, he said that he had a message for the city, right, or the city people. And he went on tour and he did a bunch of, like, it was really low budget. Like, he would show up in like some, anyways, when we were talking about 2012, prior to 2012, he's all like, look, what's going to happen is that people that are going to be born from 2012 and on are going to have special souls, because they're here for specific reasons. It's time to clean up. It's time to put things back where they were. No one has the answer, right? I told you earlier, I'm from the school of science and unknowing. That doesn't make sense. Science is knowing. But the unknowing is something I'll never know. I can never understand or grasp the concept of our Creator. He's far beyond me. She's far beyond me. It's far beyond me. So to have these very difficult talks and try to get closer, I don't think it matters who it was. I think back in ancient times, we learned from each other. And white supremacy does not want to reveal that.
No, I think that's the ultimate truth of the matter, is there was more trading. I personally feel from my research that an understanding that I feel things started here. This was the old world. I mean, the old world, not the new world, as they say. And I feel like all these elements of setting up, you know, all these different aspects with the doctrine of discovery, it's just trying to hide all this knowledge. And so why else would the Vatican have all these, you know, hidden documents they don't want people to see and don't want people to know, and disconnect so much? And then that there's such a strong calling, even, you know, of different ethnic cultures that are so advanced in so-called, you know, modern day Europe, that they want to go back to the roots. And that was the amazing thing, is like being at, you know, at in Bore, they honor the four directions just like here. and they have it attached to their different elf gods. But I was like taken back. I was like, oh my gosh, the goat horn, the conch shells here, but it just blew my mind. And so just seeing these correlations, even the fact that when it comes to trading too, there was a lot of trading happening between Nords, Muslims, of course the Moors, and also ancient Egypt. And they're also the use of symbology. And this is an interesting topic because it comes into, the most controversial symbol, the swastika. And there's ancient, in some of the museums, there's these ancient buckets that have the swastika there. And then when I was at Many Winters gathering in 2018, I was talking to a young Tongva brother, and he was mentioning, he said street signs and in Arizona had the swastika prior to World War II. And why was it the indigenous culture here renounced the swastika? All these different questions, because there's something there if it's an ancient symbol that's used by every indigenous culture. And I think many have argued that it's the procession of Ursa Major around Polaris. And it's the same reason why if you go to Mongolia, they do a I think it's a summer celebration where they do the procession on horses, and they also form a swastika. And it's why the Hu from Mongolia, in some of their videos, some of the bikers are wearing their rings. And of course, they mirrored it out because I guess Western culture or whatever, because of the attachment to that.
Yeah.
But these are, I think, decolonizing conversations that need to be had.
Well, we just need to learn how to relate to everyone like the Mexica did, at least when it comes to Lost Athlon natives, right? When it comes to LA natives, when it comes to this podcast, we're going to use the wisdom of our ancestors to navigate our way through this dimensional reality.
And you're right, Zero. It's like a Hollywood lens, right?
Yeah, well, everything that we believe a warrior is or a shaman is or any of that comes from Hollywood. We go, oh, wow, look at that guy. Oh, I could do more medicine than that guy. Watch. And then we get stuck on this trip that we're going to be the ultimate warrior. The ultimate warrior.
Well, and the people behind those flicks, too, the Hollywood industry, the producers and the writers, they're the ones twisting shit up, right?
Well,
Zero?
they keep just doing the same story is what it is because they're lazy and they don't want to work and they don't want to do the research and they don't want to invest the money to tell the true stories of but they're not into truth. They're into selling clothes and Nikes and whatever the fuck they're
Honestly,
trying to
the
sell.
only thing I'm a fan of is Star Wars, but I don't even know if Star Wars has a backstory behind it.
Supposedly, this is from another teacher of mine, Moorish descent in New York. Machete was sharing with me, and from what I'm learning, there's these ancient rods, and it actually relates to that instrument. If you don't mind grabbing it, Armando. Thank you. This is a wind singer. So there's these ancient rods in Egypt, and they spelled it D-Jedi. I think it's like D-J-E-D-I, and they would hold different molecular alchemy in their hands. So it would be like copper or I think almost like a form of brass, and they had a similar vibration. So supposedly some of these ancient culture stories have been slowly, of course with the Hollywood Disney-fied subliminal lens, partially into Star Wars. So there's a foundation of that there. I haven't done enough research, but it is very telling. I feel like part of white supremacy from this perspective of being another entity that's twisted in a perverted way is they hide ancient knowledge in plain sight, and the intention is and simultaneously hiding other knowledge.
I'll tell you why. Because you can't lie about universal truth. Right. That's why they can hide it in plain sight. Yeah. Because they can't lie about it. It's true. Mm-hmm. When you tell me, okay, you have some knowledge of crystals, right? Yes. Can you break down what you feel crystals are? crystals like
crystals,
amethyst,
well,
quartz.
That's a good
copper.
question. Yeah, I would say, like, to me, it's energy that's congruent into a certain form of frequency at a certain time. Frequency at a certain time. And so that, because I mean, we know that this is what 99.99% space. So if everything's energy, then like frequency, and like, ancient Mexica culture knows that everything is in the time, in the place. And so I feel like crystals are like that.
That's a good point, because they take a long time to form.
It takes so long.
Yeah. So how much is it, like, roughly? Do you know, like, how long it takes a crystal to? We're talking about 30,000, maybe 40,000 years.
It can be. I mean, it can vary. I'm sure from like 10,000 to maybe 50,000 years. I don't know. I think that's a good time frame. 10,000 to 50,000 years. That's a lot of time. That's so much time.
Right. So, and then the pressure that's causing it to happen. Right. Okay. So now we have a dense version of frequency or energy, right? So then when I tell you that I study science and the unknown, our ancestors understood science in this way. If we're electromagnetic, which was very been proven in this Western bullshit science, that we emit an electrical charge, right? Because gravity's pulling us, right? It's electrical. Now infuse your blood with metal. Now infuse your blood with mineral. Now hold crystals. Now hold copper. Now hold an instrument like that. See? But to white supremacy, that's laughable. To white supremacy, that's, oh, look at the crazies.
You just say white hippie.
But there was some science rooted to what we do. Mineral-based diets are very important to flood your bloodstream with, because minerals are your mother. And Tron Judal said that. I'm going to say it every single time that I remember. We are of her minerals, her water, her fire, her earth. That's us. That's why we're such conflict when it comes to European culture or anything.
We abuse the fire. I mean, I'll admit that. As far as the sun wheel, that was the biggest, I think, aspect from my understanding of the ancient teachings and ancient prophecy, at least from different cultures. I think this is as that, white brothers and sisters, at least from color wheel, we abused the fire, and that was our tool that we're supposed to keep in a different way.
With you being said that you abused the fire, we have 26,000 years of history. You don't think we did either? Of course we did. We abused it so much that we started hurting ourselves. That's the only thing you learn from. We need to learn.
It's trauma creates more trauma.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's that cycle. It's like, when do we say, hey, this is enough? This doesn't serve. And the biggest thing that we see now in today's society is things don't serve. Who are they serving? We had the largest transfer of wealth in history last year. Largest transfer of wealth. I know it's
and we had the quickest billionaires, in this 2 years, right, Armando?
Well, now there's a race to be the first trillionaire, right? Against these scumbags, Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk.
And here's the kicker. Those guys are new school, because the Rockefellers and the Carnegies and all that motherfuckers, they were already trillionaires. Imagine that, community. Imagine that. These motherfuckers right now are trying to publicize their way to being a trillionaire, when people in the 1920s and 30s were at least a good amount of close to being fucking trillionaires. So if you're a trillionaire, if you drop $1 billion on something, that ain't shit. Think about this, what we're talking about, white supremacy and the manipulation of certain families that are of white descent. That's it.
Well,
let's make it clear, because JD's dope, man. JD's cool and he's humble and he's taking the hard questions. You know what I mean? So, respect.
There's this whole propaganda behind those two dudes that they're chasing the trillion, but is it a coincidence that they're both trying to get people into space? I think that's going to be the propeller to make these dudes trillionaires. Because the most affordable ticket, from what I know, is what, 600 grand?
Well, look, this is the problem.
That's
We
even
think-
if there's a space. I don't know.
We think
right.
We think trillionaire. We think trillionaire, and we go, oh yeah, he has a lot of money. He can buy a lot of rides. He can buy a lot of whips. No, he can buy himself out of any situation he ever gets into. So guess what? If his vaccines get all fucked up, how the fuck you do that? How the fuck you be a billionaire and go, yeah, I'm gonna push this on you and no repercussions on my fucking end. I don't give a fuck if you get paralyzed. I don't give a fuck if you get sick. I don't care if your grandma dies.
It's attachment to trauma.
Right? This is a billionaire saying and deciding.
No.
That's what I'm talking about. People have to put people who have billions of dollars accountable for things. You can't go, oh, that's just a businessman in obscurity over there. Not when he's fucking dealing with public fucking or social ramifications of his decisions or what he thinks is wise or how we should share the vaccine or, you know. I'm talking about a specific person because he's in the limelight, right? Him and Bezos or whatever the fuck his name is.
You know, I have to admit, I've ordered something from Amazon. I haven't bought a Tesla yet, though.
Well, don't, because we have to come together collectively as a community, and I mean a global community, but know that we as indigenous individuals of Turtle Island, of the original knowledge of Anáhuac, have a lot of healing to do, and we have to look in our own mirror. But that's what made us great, because you learn a lot of things when your story is that you walked 240 years to the Valley of Mexico to build one of the greatest societies that this globe has ever witnessed. The organization, the mastery in communication. I'm not surprised that you're here and that you're of European descent and that we're talking, because my abuelos knew how to talk. They knew how to talk to people without judging, right? They learned from everything, even the bad things, the good things. You learn a lot when you walk for 240 years and fulfill your destiny, even to the point to know that you will be the last of the last great civilizations of Anáhuac. Man, what kind of weight is that? But our great abuelo said that we would return, and that's where we're at. We're time to heal. It's time to get over the anger and look at them and look at brothers of European descent as a certain tribe. And please don't feel offended if we don't include you.
No, I don't. I've learned a long time ago that, like, if anybody has any projection against me, it's not about me. And non-attachment's been a great tool. But there's always something that, to be learned from any conflict, and that's why it comes up. And that's the biggest element of, I guess, of our own learning and healing for all walks of life.
And to be honest, JD, your music reflects everything that you're speaking on, bro. Like, I consider you an indigenous artist.
Thank you. We're all indigenous to Earth, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But apparently there's this genre that's called indigenous music or indigenous hip hop, right, JD? And there's certain scenes, not just locally but nationally, that I guess people feel like they need to be pigeonholed. No,
but that's what we're challenging. That's what
exactly.
broke up. That's what broke up the whole thing. Because there was, look, Keys, Red Cloud, all these older, I shouldn't say older, all these veteran hip hop artists, right? They tried to do it, but that's what broke it up.
Right.
Was the
and
you're
JD,
this and you're that.
You're fully aware of scenes out here in LA, like Project Blow. We were talking off camera. Like, there's scenes like that, dope underground hip hop scenes. But was there ever, when we were growing up, an indigenous hip hop scene or an indigenous music scene where you could be like, oh, yo, that's where I could get my medicine?
Yeah. No, there wasn't any of that growing up. I mean, there was no aspect of that. I mean, we've been blessed with the internet. I mean, that's how I sort of found some teachers, and I've had a lot of interesting, amazing, amazing teachers like Valdesor Nadishana, who got me started on some of these aspects of my culture. and other cultures as well. And you know, so that was, there was nothing around like that, but there was always a inkling to a sound because it had a sensation, just like when, you know, Bearheart brought me to the lodge and what that felt like, and going through that transformation of sweating and how important that is for our mind, body, and soul. And so, yeah, there was none of that. But I feel like anything, it's just, you know, timing with everything, just like the timing of growing up and then knowing some amazing MCs like Verbs and Alpha MC, and being invited to Project Load and sharing with them. And so it's just a great evolution to see things. And like, I'm so honored. I have to give a shout out to, you know, Tio Martin Espino. You know, has been a great teacher of mine and changed my life when I met him in 2009. So.
Right. And you know, those days when there were those quote unquote underground hip hop scenes and stuff, there was, like, for me, I already saw it coming, like a dope indigenous scene, and like Zero of El Vuh was like directly in the forefront of it, right? Zero. And then, like you said, Keys and all of them were like Red Cloud. You guys were all like the forefront of that new scene. I guess you guys were curating, not creating, just curating.
Well, we were definitely telling the story of indigenous genocide. You know, we had, and we tied it with our wisdom. And then at the time we were going to ceremonies, so those wisdoms came in dreams and profound writings, and I'm honored to be a part of that, those projects, you know, and the future coming projects of healing and learning how to deal with good individuals, because that's what destroys scenes, is that we lose connection. We let go of connections very easy. And I could see how our ancestors dealt with connections and didn't take things personal enough to the point where they're going to sever or hurt their own selves, right? That's, sometimes we self-sabotage in that way, and I don't want to do that no more. I want to go, hey man, JD's dope, and he has a community of individuals that are progressive thinkers, and they're buying a ticket to the show, and they're buying an LA Native shirt. There's nothing to discriminate against that. But sometimes in growing up in my scene, oh, who's the white dude right there, all trying to be all, I didn't like that vibe, bro. It's like, let him be him. And now, if he tries to be like, I'm the leader of this, and oh, I'm sorry, bro, wait. That's not what we are. I'm not going to be hating just because you want to participate, right? I like going to fucking reggae shows. I like going to Quito socials. They're straight up reggae Jamaican dudes. And I'm there, I'm fucking jamming. You know, it's like, there's no, I don't feel like out of place. I feel like, oh shit, I like this music. It's dope. It's having fun. That's the way everybody should be at an LA Native show, right? We're having fun. We're learning from each other.
Everybody I invited from my different cultures, including my adopted father, who's part Choctaw, he enjoyed himself. You know,
there you go.
Everybody like had a great time.
Yeah, we're not there to judge. We're there to join, create ideas, learn how to. Maybe we go like, hey, bro, we're having a hard time with this white supremacist group. Hey, bro, I know how they are. You know what I mean? Like, you can give me advice on how to deal with something if I'm going through something with LA Natives. Like, I'm not gonna, oh, that's a white dude, fuck that dude. No, I'm not gonna be that. But I have to say this, and I'm gonna say this in the best loving way. You can't be a part of the tribe until we've healed, but you could be my brother. You know what I mean? Sure. And that's the same thing. But I just think that people in the camp will have something to say, and I have to respect what they have to say. Does that sound?
Oh, it's totally all right.
You understand?
Yeah.
But respect and love, and you know, that's never. You cannot, fucking white supremacy, you cannot take that from me. You cannot take my love away from me, my ability to analyze and make a good decision when it comes to another human and what they have to offer.
And right. Expression is key. Anything that's held in, including anger, creates dis-ease. Mm-hmm. And that's all it is. It's dis-ease. Mm-hmm. And it's something to be aware of in that aspect, especially with today's aspect of why we get ill. You know, we've been sort of disconnected from the earth so much we forget what gets us ill.
Right, and that's a frustrating thing for our community. I have to be honest with you, bro. It's like, how the fuck is this white boy healthier than me? Eating fucking, you know, shit that I used to eat. And that's a bad vibe. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I don't want to be jealous of a individual who said, hey, man, your fucking culture makes good food. Let me look. You know, and I'm hating because he's doing it. No, I'm going to go research myself. I'm going to go see and put together and do. And that's how Mali Nali was born, right? I got tired of people saying, oh, yeah, people, that's white boy food. What? All of a sudden it became white boy food? It's not white boy food.
Right.
Spirulina has been around our culture for a very, very, very long time. I'm talking thousands, right? At least hundreds. That's a to have any culture on this globe and you document how long they've grown certain things, there's a reason, because there's mineral. And I just told the community that mineral is metal and a part of our mother. And that's how we relate to her, by ingesting, right? And connecting and respecting everything that lives on this earth. And that happens to be you too, brother.
And it creates alchemy. That's another thing about like these, metals and ancient foods is in that aspect, that was the biggest reason that I was reading a book recently. It's really, really controversial book. It's banned on Amazon. It's called Contagion Myth. And it's based on, some pretty solid, at least history, that is, of course, disputed from modern day Rockefeller-based science. And it argues that, the biggest contributing factor to at least genocide here was the wiping out of the indigenous economy, particularly the diet connection to the foods, and particularly also bringing up salts, the importance of natural salts. And there was a salt trade that was huge here in Turtle Island. And once that decimated, and then you got onto more processed foods on the reservations, wiped out.
Yo, I like how you say Rockefeller-based science.
Well, it is. I mean, they did. Well, that's the whole thing. There was a doctor by the name of I think it was Robert A.R. Campbell in the early 1900s who was curing malaria and smallpox, and you never hear about him because he never went around with the Rockefellers. And he figured out that it was actually, he treated patients in a house and he never used any protection. And he found out it was always after a fruit crop disruption, and they were lacking vitamin C, something as simple as vitamin C. And he found out the biggest trigger, and this is another controversial topic, of course, of why people would get ill with it, was that there was bed bugs. So the theory is if the blankets were dirty and there was not an aspect of hygiene, and then you don't have enough minerals in your diet, and you get bit, the body's response of getting rid of poison would then cause pox and the breaking down of our system.
Wow.
So you then include that, say, with the aspect of all the trauma that did happen from colonization. That's going to have an effect on our psyche, and that is why also, we can create our own disease of even mental illness. When I went through my major depression, that was like, something.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. We create our own disease by being upset at things that we cannot control. We can learn and use our Toltec wisdoms that are far greater than anger, jealousy, bigotry. All those things are useless tools. When you go on a 240-year walk, you savor every bit of knowledge that keeps you moving. So that's the type. You can't be angry, is what I'm saying, to learn in that way. You must be rooted, clear, precise, direct. None of that is negative. That's the state of mind we need to return to. That we speak in confidence. I hope I'm coming off confident in front of somebody of European descent. Because, to be honest with you, people aren't confident, But I feel like I am, because I'm non-judgmental. I'm just a human. At the end of the day, I'm no more greater than you are. Whether your history is whatever it is and my history is whatever it is. As great as my history is, to be humble and to be a student of the unknowing, it puts you in its place. You know, we're here to experience and navigate. And people look up to us and wear our regalia and paint their face like us because we have the strongest spirits. We've proven that through history. I think that's the only thing, and I don't think that's negative. I think humility and really rooting yourself in your mother's wisdoms and medicines are the most powerful thing you can do, no matter what anyone says. So,
yeah, totally. No, I'm in total agreement. And,
Yeah.
and it's really knowing yourself and being the soul that you're meant to be.
Yeah.
Because why else would you start all this? Like,
yeah,
it has to come from somewhere, and I feel like every step that you've made in your life has been an evolution. Because I'm it's so funny, like many moons ago when I would attend the farce and I didn't really know you, I saw your passion, but like it was so intense, I didn't know like to approach you or not.
Oh, okay.
But like, knowing
you see, like see, we could have known each other for a long time. I didn't know you used to go to the old Farce of July
back in 2008. That was like my first time.
Well, that was a height of our career, so when those Farce of Julys happened, they were very successful. And see, but again, we're in the you're right. Maybe I would have been different. I mean, I don't know. I've always had a good heart. A lot of the reason why I left Quito Soul was they went into this militant state of like hating white people. And it was just like, I get it. I was studying Malcolm X too, but I didn't feel like that. It felt very absolute to me, and I didn't want to be that. I want to be wise. I want to be humble. I want to be connected to who I am. So if I do that, then it's irrelevant whoever anyone else is. It's like if I'm rooted into and speak confidently about what I know, I'm like a tree, bro. You gotta it takes a lot to push me down. And even if you do, I'll still grow. I saw this eucalyptus tree in San Francisco and it was flat on its side, but the roots were still like connected to the earth. So it was growing like on its side.
Wow.
It was I took a video of it. I'm going to do a post about it on my IG, but that's life. I was so inspired by that tree because that's the runaway slave. That's the rebel native. That's Geronimo. That's Sitting Bull. That's Crazy Horse. That's them. No matter what, we're rooted to who we are and who we know where we come from. And that's what the Inipi does. It awakens that understanding because you're self-imposing that trauma to remember. Sundance is the same, in my opinion, not fact. My opinion.
I would definitely agree. Even though I would just call it more almost like pain, not necessarily trauma, because I feel like pain is inevitable, but I think it's the attachment to it. I think that when it becomes trauma, where it becomes detrimental. So it's like, pain's a part of life, and that's the biggest thing with these, ancient cultures and being close to the connection to the earth is through these processes, we learn to be the souls that we're supposed to be.
Yeah, so. That's a good saying. I like that. See, that's wise.
So, someone's saying you guys both mentioned a book called The Four Agreements.
Yeah.
So that's a book?
It. Yeah.
Yes.
I read that book. It's funny because, he's seen Don Miguel Luis Rise. And when I had a good relationship with Fidel Rodriguez, he invited me to a private talk that Don Miguel did. And I was always in this room with like these very powerful souls that really impacted the psyche of modern day thought. I thought that was impressive. It was the most impressive book because he didn't take ownership of the wisdom. It wasn't his. He isn't saying it's his. But he twists your own mirror at you to fix your own self. It's kind of like we complain about how we look, but we're not looking in a mirror to try to fix ourselves. We're just complaining about how we look. That's what I'm saying when we blame white people or any white person that's next to us. We're complaining about how we look, but we're not looking in the mirror.
Well, anything we say about ourselves, right, is like reflection in that aspect.
Yeah.
There's something going on there, and like I think that goes back to the smoking mirror, right?
Yeah.
So it's like having that knowledge and awareness of what effect, how powerful we are as creators, of what would happen when we do those things. We don't understanding our medicine because of that. So.
And so when you read the Four Agreements, you deal with your own self. That's really what it is. So yeah, that book I've read it. I'm sure JD's read it. His spirit is in that vibe.
Yes,
you know, and that's a very hard vibe to be in, because I've known people who read that book and they're like, oh no, I didn't want it. And when they tell me that they don't want to finish it or they didn't feel like they were resonating with it, that only tells me that you're not resonating with fixing yourself. You know, you have to fix yourself. You have to do the work to fix yourself. And that's all that book said. Fix yourself. That's all that book said. You want a cliff note of it? Fix yourself. Because when you're fixed, you can participate in reality in a rooted way, in a way that protects you and your children. That's what we need right now. We need people to be rooted in a way that protects them and themselves and their children. And that's it. That's all we're responsible for. If we happen to be blessed to extend that love outside our community, which I feel like my family is, then that's just a responsibility given to us by the fire.
JD, do you have any kids?
I do not.
Yeah, I don't either.
It's a big responsibility, bro. Yeah. But it's okay. It's a good one. That's
a beautiful one.
It inspires me to, like, you know.
I always tell myself there's no excuse now. Like, I don't have any kids. I have so many friends and, you know, partners, you know, business partners that have kids. I'm just like, I look at myself. I'm like, yeah, damn, there's no excuse.
Well, no. You know what? You have to have children. And here's a good message for LA natives. Don't have children until you experienced everything you felt you needed to experience. Until you feel like, I want to now give information to something or someone. Because when we have them prematurely, we feel like they're in their way. And I'll be the first one to tell you, having a child at 21 years old, I didn't even know what it was like to be a full man yet. You know what I mean? I had this colonized version of a man. Rich, arrogant, dominant over women. Because that's the training that I got in the barrio, right? You could pay for things, you have ultimate say. And that's a Spaniard. That's what I'm talking about, the Four Agreements. I looked in my own mirror and I went, what the fuck? I'm not going to be that. And there's no way I'm going to pull off being a humble, wise soul of this universe, being in that state of mind. So I had to look in my own mirror. And that's my example of one of my examples. There's thousands of examples that you look at when you look in your own mirror and you actually finally make the courage to say, yeah, I am that way. And you either choose to continue to walk in that way or you don't.
It's all a choice. And that's the ultimate thing, is that we have a choice. I call it choosing heart on intuitive cosmic emissions. Choice.
Yeah. Dope.
And heart is happiness emanating around revealing truth.
There you go.
And then truth is transforming resistance universally through heart. And that's what you're doing here, Zero. And Armando, you know, you're talking about tough topics, you know, in a time where people don't want to sit down and just discuss things,
right,
or just share information. And that's what, you know, all ancient cultures really did. In order to survive, we had to share.
I wanted to create something that was, everything I do is a road for my children, if they ever got lost in life, that they could reference, right? I actually made CDs, I made albums, I made this podcast. Luckily, the Creator blessed me with an ability to work with nonverbal, autistic, violent individuals. So then my communication skills had to ramp up. You know what I mean? Because they don't talk. I had to read body language. I had to read certain things. And that's how I treat. It made me so sensitive that's why when I communicate with anyone, and now that I'm on a platform of a podcast, I try to use all of my heart medicine, because I'm in a comfortable space. I'm in my space that me and Armando created. So there's no guard. But there are functions, though, that we need to understand. We have a mental matrix, we have a heart matrix, and we have a stomach matrix. So if you're fucking eating bad food constantly, and you're in bad moods, bad food, bad moods, you know, I learned a lot being an individual who intermittent fasts every day and has a high mineral diet. You know, I eat once a day and I still work out. I'm not doing that to toot my own horn, but I'm trying to tell people that my stomach matrix is finally starting to heal, which gives power to my heart matrix, which makes my mental matrix very precise and clear. Because I am representing one thing, and that's universal power and love. That's what I feel I'm doing. And that's what I feel you're doing too.
Oh, likewise.
And Armando.
Yo, JD, one thing that caught my attention is that every time I interacted with you when it came to these events and stuff, your work ethic is very similar to people that I consider making moves, people that are grinding. Like, you're always like, hey, is there an area where I could sell my merch? I'm like, hell yeah, that's the type of artists I want to work with. Am I right, JD?
Right.
Your live performances are insane. If there's anyone tuning in, you guys definitely have to check out one of his live performances. Can you go ahead and break down where that work ethic came from? Like, you know, usually a lot of artists tend to go the easy way route and just try to, you know, get shows here and there and just like not really take full advantage of the square footage that's around them. So, like, where did that element derive from?
I think it's part of my Slavic Polish roots, honestly, and Germanic roots. But in my part of my family were coal miners back in the day. My great grandfather was a coal miner, but they were always like more blue collar workers, and
right?
Like
they
were always doing things.
You like, adversity is nothing to you. Like the both shows that we had, there was sound, I guess, complications when people are not experienced with that type of elements you bring on stage, right? So you actually hands-on and then you get it done. Like, that's amazing to me, JD.
Thank you.
Like, not a lot of artists take that extra step to make sure things are at least working okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a process. It's been a long journey, honestly. Like, since I started looping, which was like 2008, I was inspired by one of my big inspirations, teachers, mentors, WFX. But actually, it was really Rico Loop who got me sort of looping. And I just sort of had this vision and this sound in my head and just said, okay, well, I need to explore this. Like, I'm having these ancient instruments call to me, and I'm hearing this thing that I don't hear anywhere else.
So that's it. That's the thing. Those instruments that you take pictures with and stuff, those are ancient instruments.
Yeah,
right?
a lot of them.
That's crazy, right, Zero? Like,
Yeah. Well, from his culture.
So yeah, well, some of them are from my culture, some of them are not.
Oh.
Some of them just have called to me. Mainly it was Valdeswar Nadishana from Siberia who sort of lit that spark mainly when I was in college. I went to Citrus College for sound. And it was this particular instrument. This is part of my culture. It's called kalyuka. It's an overtone flute. This is from Russia. Originally, but they have it in Slavic culture as well, and it's traditionally made where it's we'll have a fipple, so this part will be closed, and then it's just a little fipple part. It works the same way as a Native American flute. You'll have a sound chamber, and it comes out. But this one was made more like a kena, like a or end blown flute, or a shakuhachi from Japan, and I made this out of recycled PVC. I burned it. I wouldn't recommend this. I would never do this again, but. Had a fan blowing the whole 9 yards, and this instrument really lit the spark of everything else. And it's like whatever I'm called to, I just go. And it's been weird because I even picked up kume, which is the ancient art of throat singing, and I found out there's some weird connection, even in genetically, many have argued in Norse culture of throat singing, even though it's shared worldwide. The Inuit up in the Arctic, the Xhosa in South Africa, they throat sing. So I'm like, what's going on here? I mean, of course, there's masters and the headhunters have been in Tuva and Mongolia, but there's something there. And the fact that it came more naturally, and I mean, I've also, thankfully, thanks to last year, gratefully, the person who got me started Enrique Ugalde. Shout out to you, Soraya. He, I got to study with him, and, sort of refine, and I still feel like I know nothing.
Well, Zero, I want to say, like, Zero, like, every time I listened to El Vuh, there was always something about that music. It wasn't just hip hop. There was like so many sounds and samples that were just like, to me, I was like, yo, is El Vuh like tapping into like our ancient sounds and instruments? If you know what I mean, Zero?
For some of the tracks, yeah. Because Martín Espino, who is someone that JD mentioned, was on Curanderos, he was on Ciudad Celestial, he played actual clay flutes, and he's a traditional flute player. So yeah, those instruments were there. And that's cool that you get inspired to make instruments from your culture. That's a cool thing, man. You see,
not a lot of artists do that, Zero, right?
No. But that's what's interesting about JD, and keep going in that direction, because the more original you are in that aspect, and the humility, I mean, all of it comes together, and I'm sorry that we didn't meet earlier on in our career.
It's all good. Like, I feel like we all meet when we're supposed to, and everything comes into place.
Well, that's cool that you're familiar with the music. I mean, a lot of people don't.
Yeah, like, I mean, it was. I met Martin first, and then heard
absolutely
El Vuh after. But yeah, he switched the game, because I was like, of course, it was funny the way we met at Tierra de la Culebra in Highland Park, and it was for a Peace Through Culture event, and eventually like met more like directly Aslan Underground through there as well, and just getting to know him over the years, and seeing his wisdom, and the whether it's the folk songs or even how things are made, and the different aspects. We're always like teaching each other something.
That's cool.
And that's what I feel like guidance and elders, and we're all teachers in that aspect. So there's always something we can.
Well, the reason we're teachers is because we make mistakes.
Yeah.
You don't learn if you don't make mistakes, and you can't judge yourself for the mistakes you've made. That's another part of the 4 agreements. Looking in your mirror is the best metaphor I could use, is to adjust this understanding, because, everybody gets caught up with the elder or somebody who's wise. And then when that wise person makes a human mistake, all of their wisdom goes away. All of it gets evaporated. I learned that big lesson when I was in my youth, and I got inspired by artists like Bob Marley, who were singing about African culture and slavery and all that stuff. I was like, wow, and then he did it in the early 80s. That's kind of a very racist time to demand human rights and wronging of slave, the benefit of slave culture. That to me was an artist that went, whoa, what the fuck? He went up against the globe saying, hey, you fucking stole me from my original land, right? And I felt like that's what I did with El Vuh, and I continue to do with my own solo career. Is standing up to ignorance. And the ignorance is that there's a specific 400 families that have been responsible and benefiting off the work of all of our backs. Black, Native, white.
And who says they're human, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Is that human, or is that maybe it's a form of consciousness? Who knows?
You're right.
I find that really interesting, especially the definition, like when I said white, WIGHT, and then black in Black Law's dictionary it means like not living, which is weird. So I'm like, okay, is it the identification of cultures, at least in dominant society, then causing some of this, upheaval, like legally wise? I don't know.
It is going to be challenged. Of course it's going to be challenged. Don't think that, the doctrine of discovery is going to stand on its merit for thousands and thousands of years till the end of time. Everyone knows that document was illegal, written in a different language, and we had no challenge to it. People of surviving genocide, that's going to be our 500-year task, is calling it out, challenging it, and recuperating it in a way that's inclusive to everyone. Because we're not trying to kick white people out of here. At least that's not what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to kick out their mentality, their ability to just automatically reference dominance just because they went to a Rockefeller institution or a Vatican-backed. Because think about it. It's either Yale, right, which is Rockefeller, Carnegie, all that bullshit, or Oxford, or Notre Dame, right? That's Vatican. So they're very clear about where they fucking have their information. We have to challenge that. That's our 500-year task, is challenging that, not beating up on humble individuals that happen to be of European descent. That's not progressive, right? But being very clear with individuals who are of European descent, you know, and the solving of our problem has to come from us. If we fall if we get into any debate or any situation with your tribe, which is of the European descent, then we'll call upon your good hearts to come and help us with that. You know, just like you would ask me, hey, bro, I'm in this fucking neighborhood and this gangster's fucking, hey, bro, let me go talk to him, let me see what's up. Like a mediator, an ambassador. But know that ambassador weight, it comes with the trauma that it caused. You know, that's the tough part, you know?
So the whole looping thing, it didn't come from like an influence, like, oh shit, like I saw that one day and I want to do that, or it just came naturally.
Part of it was, you know, Rico Loop YouTube back in the day, with looping, and then I discovered Dub Effects after the fact, and he was just starting to blow up because at that time, I guess there had never been anybody who had it like pre-recorded, and so I was at I was going to LA Trade Tech at the time, and so I did like a little makeshift performance there with it. Did some showcases at the Airliner, because I used to work there doing sound. And I think I brought Verbs to like rock the mic with me and whatnot one time, and with Always Prolific and whatnot. So it was cool. We made a little like live hip hop band and then sort of looped with it. Even had
Did you ever do sound for Low End Theory?
No, they had their own sound person.
That's
usually.
right.
So yeah, I never was.
Yeah, Zero always mentions Low End Theory, man, and much respect to those guys. They held down the Airliner.
It was dope.
Yeah, I
it
mean,
was a dope experience.
That's the type of vibe we're trying to create with LA natives, man. That type of concert atmosphere.
Yeah,
totally.
It's like-minded. I thought everybody was like-minded. Nobody really complained about who was performing. It was all like,
bro, JD, like you're in all the scenes I'm in, bro. Like, am I right? Zero, like he mentions all these dope little scenes. Like, dude, we're all connected.
Yeah, Project Blow's impressive.
Well, it's just time and place and just experience of just going different places and yeah, one thing leads to another. Like going to learn sound. Like had a calling after in 2005. I'm like, oh, I need to go learn sound. And I had already started learning some ancient instruments at the time. This came up while I was in college, and then of course. Yidaki, didgeridoo. Yidaki's the original name, Native American flute, and it just sort of snowballed. And then after getting sort of an effects pedal and sort of figuring it out, more of these ideas with these looping aspects sort of came into fruition. And it took like literally like, it feels like years for certain compositions. It's just like, well,
those are dope ones. Those are the cool ones when you can just grind away for a long time on that same thought. You know, not like when I do records, I try not to stay in that space where it's like, oh wow, I'm gonna keep this for like, I'm gonna chip away at this. It has a certain time frame and like kind of like expiration date for me. Doesn't mean I throw it away. It just gets put in a place where it's like, okay, this was an idea that didn't finish. And sometimes I refer to those ideas as a reference to start a new idea. You know what I mean?
Totally.
So, yeah.
Yeah, no, that like it's. I think the best analogy Michael Tamora has given me is, it's like having you have a big kitchen and you have a stove and you have a bunch of things on the pot, and some things you need to put on simmer. And stuff like that, and it's been
absolutely,
and it's been weird like that because this one particular multimedia thing I've been working on, it's been taking years, and it has to do with my logo art and just having a bigger vision for it, and And so I'm just trusting the process, you know. And the lyrics came way later. The music came first. And then like one day I just get this download of all these lyrics, and I'm like, I don't know what this is. And I'm like, okay, I need to write all this out within 36 hours. And then it sort of made sense last year when everything sort of went to the way it was. I'm like, wait a second here. It's almost like you have that weird premonition. Like, you know, you had that vision of 2012 and what that meant to you culturally and artistically. And
well, globally, really.
It
was that. It was mainly like trying to conceptualize this massive shift in consciousness, right? Your inspiration to make instruments that are a part of your culture, try to mimic whatever that is, the same thing that a Martin did, but for the Mesoamerican culture.
Part of that is my journey, but also like I know this is a touchy subject for some people. It's like I haven't limited myself to just my culture. I've just had this weird inkling, and that's how I like picked up throat singing and stuff like that. And I can't really explain it. And when you're in the artistic mode, you're not thinking about all these other things that, you know, we see in modern day society of these aspects where it does bring up trauma. You're just thinking of, like, maybe this artistic aspect of healing, of just creation. And I think that's the way of being an artist, is like you just want to push these elements past where they've been before, because there needs to be healing.
Yeah, well, we have to be open. It's not, we need to heal from our own traumas, you know. That's the thing. That's what makes us great, you know. When I mean, I've met them throughout my whole life, you know, and when I say them, I mean the elders that came before me, right? Right now, kids think it's cool to be me, right? I've gotten several DMs from young individuals inspired by me, is what I should say. But it wasn't like that for people that came from my, you know, previous to my generation. They were actually told and laughed at and told they weren't native, that they were Mexican, and that they didn't belong here. And, you know, we've been facing that for a very long time, you know. So we have a very traumatic road. But then what grounds me back to reality is that our ancestors took that 240-year road, and I have access to that wisdom because I'm me. That's me. I know that's me. When you say that story, I get chills. That's me. It's my blood telling me that's you, you know? And I use all that. I guess, like what you call download is just a deep meditation with self. I remember this situation. How do I deal with it? Because not all white people want to rape and fucking take your land, you know? A lot of people did, but those were the very ignorant individuals that they took advantage of. Rich elites take advantage of uninformed, poor individuals and communities. That's why they're delving into Black Lives Matter and all these other things, because rich elites love to manipulate poor communities. Well, and white communities are a part of that.
And it's a syst stem. Yeah. It's a you know, this sort of like attraction to particular consciousness of what I call hate, which is like hastily adding tasteless expression.
Right, which is the new modern day version of it when it comes to being vaccinated and unvaccinated. Like all of a sudden being unvaccinated is unhealthy, right? That's stupid. Some of the most healthiest individuals I met have never taken a vaccine, will never take a vaccine, and they live off of plant-based everything.
Well, now they're telling me personally that I won't be able to do my job unless I'm vaccinated, since I am in the entertainment business. And
now,
according to New York, you can't walk into a venue or perform unless you're vaccinated.
But they have to challenge that shit.
No, it's gonna be challenged, but it's also.
I just don't think it's gonna be challenged. I think it's gonna be.
It has to be.
No, there's gonna be challenges.
No, I feel like the system is so dumbed down. There's gonna be no challenges. Everyone's just gonna fall in line, and in order for me to perform or promote my next event, I'm gonna have to show them this card, or I heard it's an app now. I don't know. That's how I feel.
Well, it's so close to like a tattoo that had numbers on it, right? You know, let's say.
Well, that's what it is. It's registering it. The act and the vaccine is not the number of the beast. I'm gonna tell you what the number of the beast is.
And we're not here again, Zero. We're not here, shaming people that are vaccinated.
No, absolutely not.
I'm
explaining what happens.
Disclaimer we need to say now.
I'm explaining what happens. Whatever you decide to do for your health benefit, you're sovereign, and that's what LA Native stands for: sovereignty. Your own individual opinion, even if it's fucked up, even if you look like an asshole, we're gonna stand with you because you're our people, you're our tribe. We're not gonna abandon you. It comes to with a certain limit, though. But what I'm saying about the vaccine and it being the number of the beast is not the actual vaccine and what's in the vaccine and what goes in your body. That just fucks you up. That's just poison, right? Or a way to spread sickness, because they have to inject it into a person for it to be spreadable. That bullshit between a bat and a bat soup, and that's how we got COVID, that's stupid. It's impossible to get that. Any virologist will tell you that.
Well, it's really interesting when you mention that, because there was a court case, even though this has to do with, the so-called Canadian Alberta province. There was a white gentleman, just saw recently, he was subpoenaed and then ended up in court and for, I guess, a ticket of being around 10 people or whatever, and for like $1,200. So he asked them, he said, can you show me a isolated, purified, visualized version of this thing you call a contagion of the virus? And they could not provide him with it. And because of that subpoena of government officials for that, they removed all of their mandates, all those other aspects. They just dropped them all. So I was like, that's interesting. But you don't hear about it, obviously,
Yeah.
So it's like all these different aspects.
This is what I think is happening. I think that Nazi German scientists, here's my conspiracy theory. In the 40s, the Nazi German scientists continued on with their work in a very different way, right? Why not go to a country that thinks that everyone's free, but is really, really racist?
Operation Paperclip.
That's perfect. That's a perfect front for people who want to harm people, right? So you go, oh, come on, let's join my team. And the result of their meetings and decisions and, because they work for elites. Elites have trillions of dollars. These people that are making decisions have salaries that are connected to a monetary, even if it's $1 million a year, or $5 million a year, it's nothing compared to the wealth of these business families,
yeah,
right? These cartels, these real gangster cartels.
Yeah.
Cartel. I mean, not to minimize what happens in Mexico, because that's horrific. That's just a continuance of Spaniard culture, that we have yet to figure out. But that 200-year walk is what I really rely on us to gather our psyche, our consciousness, our intention, our time here on earth to further the 7 generations back home to this reality. That the world is a very dangerous place, and we always need to be aware and precise, using the wisdoms that we carried, that we learned in each cycle of life. I think that's the only remedies that we can have to world confusion and world, dysfunction.
That's a good conspiracy theory. I definitely vibe with that, Zero.
It's true.
Do you have a conspiracy theory, JD, on what's really going on right now?
Well, I don't really call it a theory. I just call it reality.
Okay.
I mean, but it's
That's right.
It's nuanced.
Speak the truth.
It's nuanced in the aspects that, there's multiple things that can be happening that contradict each other. And that if our awareness and not knowing ourselves is not there, we're not going to see it. We're not going to be open to it. Just as much as you're open to invite me on and me to come and share. Absolutely. It's just a form of consciousness. And at the end of the day, I think that's what it comes down to.
Well, what it comes down to me is that I don't believe, even though they're smart and they're brilliant, and I just think they're poisoning us, and we're going to react to it. And if our immune system is strong enough and can deal with it, then you're going to deal with it. But if it isn't, and you're eating fast foods and you're eating high non-mineral foods, you're going to have a hard time.
And I totally 100% agree. And the other aspect, I'll go further, and this is just my theory from my own research. I believe that alchemically there is something about melanin of it being like equal to gold, not in the also literal sense. Yet there's people who I feel could be murdered for that. Dick Gregory spoke on this about, melanated brothers being killed just for their organs, but particularly the aspect that there is an aspect of like self-healing that is on a higher level of like godlike intelligence, I feel, in melanated people. And it's interesting because from some of the research of I guess DNA, according to some people and some scientists, that's why it affects people of color more than any other ethnic group. At least the adverse reactions do of this so-called jab. I mean, you just go to OpenVAERS, I think it's openvaers.com, and they have a whole list of all the adverse reactions, and that's only for 1% reported. And according to a friend of mine who works in the medical field, he said there's nurses that are being told, even when loved ones come in for adverse reactions, that their families cannot report that their family's having an adverse reaction.
Right.
If you're being threatened with your job over that, and you're going and doing all this other, then it's not about health. It's about control.
Yeah. Well, I was explaining what I thought my version of what the beast is, right?
I love how JD calls it the jab.
The jab.
The jab.
That's dope. I like that. I'm gonna use that.
I don't know. I mean, that's all it is. But it's a consciousness trying to hold on, and its time is ended. As Mazatzin, Theo Mazatzin has said, is that this consciousness of control, of white supremacy, as we call it, is over. And so this is its last, like, sort of
last hurrah.
Last hurrah, yeah. It's the last way to sort of like ride the wave, and it comes out in all these different forms, but
And what I don't want people to understand is, or misunderstand, is that it doesn't go away. It just shifts into something different. It's not going to be as absolute. It's not going to be like, that's what I mean is that, excuse me. What I love about the Moors, and I'm glad you brought them up, is their understanding of law, right? And they have to use that understanding to protect themselves against police officers, mayors, officials, any of judges, whatever it is. If you're well versed in it, you can get out of it, because there's certain laws that we're ignorant to. That's the same thing that's the campaign that they're running with this thing, is the less informed you are about it, the easier it is to convince you to get it. It's not mandated, but you need to take a test every 3 days. It's not mandated, but you need to take a test every 24 hours. So when people say, oh, it's the mark of the beast and the chip in my hand, no, it's not. It's you filling out the paperwork, putting down your name, your social security number, probably. I don't know. I haven't filled one out. I'm not going to fill one out. And giving them every bit of information that they need.
Sure, and it's the attachment to that picture of what that is,
right?
Too.
And now they add a QR code to it, and now you're registered. There you go, right? And then they're gonna go, well, tired of carrying your QR code on your phone? Then get the chip.
Well, it's one thing.
Get the liquid sticker or whatever it is, And here's the thing with universal law. You have to give consent. You have to give consent to submission of that lie. In other words, if this virus is completely dangerous and killing people, and believe me, I know what I'm saying when I roll that dice, because I could get it and I could die. I'm not saying that I can't get it and I can't die. That's not what I'm saying. But fuck you, man. You've been fucking with me for 500 years, and fuck you. I'd rather die that way than fucking submit, roll up my sleeve. Here you go, bro. Tag me. Fuck you. I want to be that rebel. I want to be that. I want to challenge the 2.0 version of white supremacy, which is called unvaccinated. We're intelligent people. We know how to fucking take care of ourselves. You're not the smartest motherfucker ever. You're not. European, Vatican, elite rulers. You're not. You're not the smartest beings on this earth. You're not. You fucking stole more than half of your knowledge. More than half of your knowledge, you stole it from other cultures. And that's the truth. And now you're fucking trying to sit as the king of the world when your shit is falling apart. That's the way I feel.
It's justification.
Sorry, I got a little emotional
No,
there.
not at all. Not at all. It's ironic because simultaneously, when I was introduced to the sacred Inipi, I also was raised Catholic, and part of at least my family, that when they came over in their, I think it was the 1800s or so, that is workers and stuff like that. They definitely adopted more of that that aspect of Catholicism, and I shifted way further away from it, more so because I was always questioning things and stuff like that at a young age. And when my grandmother passed away, blood grandmother, it was even more so, and I wasn't attached to the dogma and all the other stigma aspects, and I had too many other questions. And then I began to see and understand, thanks to, I think, John Allegro and my homie Abithati, who did my logo. He introduced me to the Pharmacratic Inquisition and how every single ancient culture, symbol, religion, being of the earth, pagan, has been manipulated and perverted into what we call modern day Christianity and all these other religions. They're all based on ancient cultures. They've just, you'll never hear that. They won't really give it credit, because if they did, we'd be able to see through so much stuff, with the symbolism and stuff like that. It's like when you watch, say, the Grammys, you'll be seeing all these ritualistic aspects. You'll be like, wait a second here, what's going on?
Right.
So it was just a interesting aspect of having that understanding of it, allegorically at least.
Think about religion being like the CIA, where the CIA decided, hey, we need to have a Hollywood department. What? Fucking why? Why does the CIA need a Hollywood department? Why?
Yeah.
To make you look smarter than you really are? To make your gadgets seem almost real? You have no power. You have no connection with this earth, and you have no connection with the universe and stars, and you know nothing about their rhythms. So you can't be all knowing or all anything, and that's what we're challenging. That's what we've always challenged. I give it up to people from Nordic descent, because their ancestors used the stars to get here. I don't believe the narrative. I think they went back with wisdom. I think there's always wisdom exchange. We were giant people. We had very large DNA. People think that we were short. We were not short. Our average height was 6 feet.
Yeah. Where do you,
where did we get the small part from?
No, I was gonna say is there's so many aspects of all these ancient trees and petrified forests, and I think there's something to that. Where else would you come up with an idea like Avatar? I think that's almost like truth in plain sight.
And then having high mineral diets will have a different function on your body.
More oxygen in the environment, more trees.
Absolutely.
Bigger brains, bigger body.
Yeah. So we even on a PBS documentary I was watching about the West and the Lewis and Clark expedition towards the West, that they used to meet up with other whites, and they would tell them, don't go to that region over there because it's ruled by giants. The Indians over there are huge in stature, and they're fearless. You think Lewis and Clark studied the whole entire fucking bit of land all the way to the west? No, they went on the safest routes and got to the safest place, and they found home, or they found their destiny, or their whatever it was. But they didn't sweep the land. There was French people that came to a certain area. There was other people from Europe came, and they did their own Lewis and Clark version of it. You know what I mean? And these lands still hold secrets, is what I'm trying to say.
So many.
We are not, just because we live in cities and we have iPads and we have fucking cell phones and we have the internet, we don't know shit.
The fact that we're even, on sacred Tongva land, and there's, downtown's a burial ground. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
All these different things.
Right by the church?
Yeah. It's like we're learning all these things, and I'm like, why am I not learning? I never learned any of this stuff in school.
Yeah.
And through self-knowledge and through just being open to something that's different, that even I may not comprehend, I may not agree with, but it's something I need to listen to.
It's something, it's challenging the narrative and taking the power away from these rich elites who establish our modern day educational system. That's why I don't refer to myself or anything as educated. Educated is trained in their system. Educated. Informed is Malcolm X. Informed is fucking everyone else who stood up for their rights. And sometimes being informed was not being informed at all, like Geronimo and Sitting Bull. They're all trying to hand him a paper. Hey, you got to go to the reservation. Get that fucking shit out. I don't even know what the fuck that is. Try to drag me there. That's what they used to say. That's who we are. That's who we need to be when it comes to our rights. When it comes to us taking space on this earth, we need to be as willing and knowing that that could be the end of your life. You know, people have died for less. Imagine going into a store and like, are you vaccinated? Nah, bro. Yeah, somebody calls the cop, boom, done.
I'm envisioning, you going into a store, you're unvaccinated, the clerk is going to pull out with the, 12-gauge shotgun.
Whoa. Fucking racist 2.0.
Do you feel me?
Once you thought, like, man, there, they lost. They come up with a better way of fucking making you racist, right? By going, oh, you're stupid. You can't take care of yourself. What do you know about science? What do you know about your own health? And if you can't answer, well, then you don't know shit.
And science has become its own religion because of, who's paid for with it and stuff like that. And, modern day science.
Dude, they keep pulling out Fauci out of nowhere everywhere. Fucking Fauci's everywhere. Oh, well, let's not look at that.
But they all, contradict themselves like all the time. And it's really interesting to see that aspect,
I've actually seen pictures now of people getting Fauci tattoos on them.
Yeah.
I don't know if you caught this. Yeah, a couple memes out there. People literally having the face of Dr. Fauci on their goddamn mask. Apparently they say he saved their lives.
No one can save your life except for yourself.
Look.
Yo, that's deep, JD.
Look,
I haven't heard
clear,
that, bro. Yeah.
Let's be clear, though. He's right. He's right. Let's be clear, though. There are people trying to hurt us.
No, there's no doubt about that. There is a threat, but it doesn't change the fact that we're capable.
Let's not forget, there are very dangerous people trying to hurt us because the 1% owns 99% of the wealth. What do you think? They're just going to go, they won't notice. It's like, fuck yeah, we're going to notice. It doesn't make sense. This math don't make sense. This reality don't make sense. And it's rooted on keeping us angry because things are unfair. And the white man's to blame for it. So they loop us in this time and they trap us in this dimension. When we were people who studied dimensional realities during certain frequencies of time, listening to the moon, stars, and sun. That's our reality. We need to get back to that. And anybody who's down to learn that will understand our language and will be able to relate with us. And it has nothing to do with race, but everything to do with heart. You understand? That's the people that we were. That's the people we come from. They conquered the heart by being clear and being direct and wise from their experiences of their 240-year walk to Mexico, where the sun, which is the eagle, meets the earth, which is the nopal. We had completed our vision and created the sunstone.
That was definitely an inspiration for my logo and stuff like that. So, Tono Amulet definitely played a part in that. But it was from a sacred psilocybin journey with the sacred mushroom many moons ago, and I started hearing this instrument during that process, and then sat down with Abi Thati, who then created that pin, and so it was just interesting seeing all these, learning after the fact, even though the visual was there, the different connections between like that Venus does around the sun. Pentagram shape, and that even, that there's different aspects of all these different cultures that have different wisdom that tie into each other. And I'm like, okay, well, there's definitely more to that of similarities that was there once upon a time. I think we all knew that integrally. But, you know, it's like almost like this is a great remembering process of some other moment of time.
I think it's very intelligent beings that have occupied this earth for thousands and thousands of cycles, understanding dimensional reality. And we just went through one. That's it. That's what makes us who we are. You know, that's what makes us fearless. That's what makes us, you know, our people don't have to understand that the breakdown of white supremacy is human trafficking. And the abduction of children and indoctrinating those children to believe a different reality. They severed us from our diet, which affected our physical. And then when they took us from our mom and dad, they affected our mind. That's what happened. But I always like to big up the younger generation, and shout out to Jag Ariel. He said something dope in an interview, and he put it on IG, and I caught it, and it was fucking dope as fuck. He said, colonization can't last forever. And that fucking resonated with me so much. It was such a powerful statement to say, colonization cannot last forever. It's like, right. You would have to be a genius. What my brother said yesterday, homogeneous motherfucker, to fucking create a perfect system that never gets destroyed, it never gets challenged, it never gets, and especially doing horrible math where 1% owns 99% of the wealth. Any fucking stockbroker will tell you that that's not a good math equation. Yet these arrogant fucks sit there and they still feel like they can impose more law and change things and force people to do things. Like this whole thing about you can't come into the venue unless you're vaccinated. You know, that's tyranny. That's tyranny. You cannot fucking, dude, where are we living where you can't make a living?
I just don't want to be enforced to, you know, have my people who come to see the show, the concert goers, the fans that come out. How am I going to sit there and force them to prove that they're vaccinated? I just don't feel like that's right.
Yeah, if we can't respect another's autonomy and where they're coming from and their own choices, then we're not living as true souls here on earth. I feel, you know,
well, it comes down to like a lot of what Jordan Maxwell says, right? Maritime law, land law. There's land law, there's maritime law, right? There's two types of laws. What maritime law is the law of shipping goods and controlling the routes of shipping goods. So there's different laws within that frame, and then land law is another law. But the one thing their law is that they don't give a shit about you, and you're a commodity to them. You are a mule. And that's what we have to challenge, because we're not. How do you take control of universal intent? That's what life forms are, I think, in my opinion, is a universal intention. In other words, the universe created a situation, right? And you were born, or your plant was born, or an animal was born, or whatever was born. But that's the universe's decision, not yours. How do you come to be the individual that feels like humans can be your personal mule? By assigning a social security number. It was like, what do you mean? Well, that social security tells you how much you owe at the end of the year. That's slavery. You're working and you think you're living a good life because you have a fucking Beamer and a 5-bedroom house. That's not reality. We have to challenge all those narratives, and we have to challenge them in the best artistic way as we can. And I guess Armando felt like JD was one of those creative individuals.
JD's an expert at self-expression. You know, like at the end of the day, to narrow it down, you're a great performer. That's what you do. That's the whole goal, right, JD? To just get people to see you, people to hear you, people to understand you, right?
Well, I mean, that's definitely one element of it. I feel at the end of the day, it's really for them to see themselves and to know who they are. And if these are just a tool, if all these instruments are just a tool for that. And if I create the space for that, then I'm really grateful and honored that I have the opportunity to gift that to people and to share that with people, because I feel that's the ultimate, I feel mission for myself, at least. Not that I'm trying to say it's all on my weight. It's everybody, it's a journey of co-creating together, but definitely.
What I like to say is your contribution.
My contribution, correct.
Like
Thank you.
Humble, that's all we're here to do, is contribute to something. Obviously other people contribute in a bigger way because they spent time learning whatever it is that they're contributing to, music, whatever. Like, it's like you ask me to make a song, I'm not gonna freak out about it. I used to, not anymore. I know, fuck, it's like easy. And then people go, what? They feel baffled, but you do things for 20 years and you're gonna know how to do it. Just like, I think my communication skills shine because I worked with these nonverbal autistic individuals who are dangerous, who will bite your finger off, and I got them to calm down and walk in the community, walk in the park. And, it helped me be a good father to my 5 children, my daughter and my 4 boys. We're all on this road to heal and be strong, rooted individuals. Maybe we're not average size 6 feet tall because, Spaniards decided to rape children, I could live with that because I'm an individual that's connected to universal intention, right? I feel that that's the same way. I view your art in that way. It was a beautiful conversation that we had. I don't know if it was tough or not. I don't know if the audience was, I
want to thank you, JD, for rocking with the podcast. I think, for months now, I've been seeing you engaged, actually tapping into a few episodes, right? And just thank you for rocking with us, bro.
Yeah. Thank you. Well, thank you. I feel this is the time for these types of platforms to give this perspective, because you can't get it out in the mainstream. And it's an honor to be a part of this and to share with all of you. And I feel this podcast, I feel is just bigger than just this podcast. I feel like, honestly, you're tying in all these different avenues of culture and co-creation for the next world that I feel we are creating, as this other one is just falling apart.
Well, my elder Humbatsman, whom I read books and, sampled them several times. I never had the pleasure of meeting them, but a lot of my good friends have. He said that this was that Turtle Island was the university of the world religion. All religions. He said that. I didn't, right? Because in his estimation, there's 21,000 pyramids on this land. I don't think we've discovered even a fraction of that amount. But that will be discovered. That will be implemented. And not in a way that's dominant. That's what people have to understand. Indigenous culture is not dominant culture. It's within the realms of chaos. But your ability to be rooted in your teachings, however far they go back, is what reflects. Right? That's the way I see it. And we're in that time, and we need to be wise warriors and invite everyone to this collective consciousness, this consciousness that doesn't see race, but oversees race, that faces it face to face when it needs to, but also knows how to be humble, rooted, and wise about its words. I'm talking about indigenous perspective. So we're in this time where it's a very dangerous time. There's a lot of bad people who are trying to bring balance to an unbalanced system. You can't bring balance after the fact. And we need to have very tough conversations. And I hope I didn't offend you in anything, way, shape, or form.
Not at all.
In this conversation, because my intention is not to put all the weight of European I don't know, torture on one person or one group of persons or even the group of persons, because it's my job to protect myself. It's my job to be rooted in what I know. And that's what I really learned from the Moors, is how to stand up for yourself in a very confident way. And I took a little piece of the confidence and applied it to my wisdoms and my commitment to this journey of helping watering the next 7 generations and putting them in a place of harmony with nature, because nature is an unharmonious place. But when we view life as being a cycle, and when we take responsibility for our motions on this earth, then we can experience, reflect, and enjoy, but let go. That's what I think we're doing and we're trying to do here in LA Natives, and we're trying to create creative platforms for everyone in their artistry. And we're dedicated to that. So tune in next Sunday.
Next Sunday, guys. Well, this Wednesday.
Or this Wednesday, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
This Wednesday.
It's going to be a jam-packed show. You know, we're going to be talking about a certain individual in the community that's been creating a lot of buzz and controversy. We're finally going to be releasing our Google Voice number so we can have people call in and give us their perspective on this topic that we're going to be talking about this Wednesday. I know Zero knows what topic we're going to be talking about, and we just wanted, you know, to see, I guess, both sides of the story before, you know, I had Zero respond, because we had dozens of DMs and comments of, you know, asking Zero to respond about a certain situation that was going on. But I think this Wednesday, we're going to bring it all together.
Yeah, we're only responding. We're not judging. We're not. I think it's important because since I've been on this road for a long time, I know what it's like to be disillusioned by an individual. You put a lot of faith in this person. I remember being in the barrio and we had no idea what any kind of elder was like or what kind of wisdoms were that. And then, you know, when we finally we meet one and we get a good experience and we feel like, oh, all of them are like that. And then you meet one and he's not like that. There's trauma there too.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of conversations going around amongst the indigenous community regarding this.
Right, and then get disillusioned because they go, oh man, I felt that he was, you know, so truthful or whatever. So that's what we're gonna address. We're gonna address the aftermath of the effect,
and of course
not him, because I have no judgments.
Absolutely, over and that's why the Wednesday discussions are vital, because we're gonna allow the fans to chime in as well through a voice line or through even video chat. So JD, WOLFROBE, thank you again for coming through.
Absolutely.
My man, make sure everyone checks out his music on Bandcamp. Simply go on Bandcamp and type in his name and support, buy his merch, buy his music, buy his pins, buy his t-shirts, listen to the music. If I'm not mistaken, you're rolling out your own segment of speaking on air, maybe on your lives, right? And doing some interviews?
Yeah, on usually on IG every Saturday night at 11 p.m. I usually do like a little live stream. It's called the Shadow Report.
Oh, cool.
And I'm starting to have different other guests just chime in on me live stream. And,
very cool.
And so, yeah, Sanity Manon is going to be coming on. And
Absolutely.
so, yeah, I'm like, I really connect with that brother. I really love
We need to get Zero on there.
Yeah, well, let's do it. You know, let's do it.
Absolutely.
I think it's always awesome to have like these different conversations about things, and that's usually like my first intro question is, what is the shadow to you? You know, and so it's always interesting to hear what different artists have a perspective on that.
That's dope. And your whole catalog is on Bandcamp?
Yeah, pretty much. I have just my whole live album. I'm re-releasing it remastered. That's coming soon. And because it was never really properly mastered. It's a combination of different live recordings I've done over the years. Everything is done live in some different environment.
Wow.
Some of the songs are looped, some of them are not, with different, some collaborations and whatnot. And then I'm working on finishing a multimedia song that's involving animation, and nature and all these sounds in my live looping material that will be coming soon. So just putting more things together. But yeah, it takes a lot when you have a vision for something and then you can't do everything a lot, and then so you pull back and accept that, okay, I can't do everything, but you know, there's a way I can meet other people and we can come together on like co-creating something. And so that's like my journey with my music in this next stage that I'm working on.
Well, good luck, man. Good luck with what you do. Thank you for being a part of our events. I think we show progression in terms of, you know, healing ourselves, because we have to learn how to be around individuals that maybe we feel very hurt by, but had nothing to do. And you seem like an individual that was able to understand where the perspective that some people have, you know, and my job is to not, you know, exaggerate it. You know what I mean? Because the last thing I want to do is feed algorithms that don't do anything to us but take advantage of us, you know. And LA Natives don't take advantage of anyone. LA Natives does its best job to do whatever it was designed to do, which is inform people and as best as we can and introduce them to quality art and individuals with big hearts that want to shift the paradigm. We don't have to live here with hatred and animosity to each other forever and ever and ever. That doesn't make sense. It's non-growth, and it's stuck in a dimension that we know we didn't create or want to be a part of. We wanted to be a part of the mystery of the universe, to be connected on a profound level from everything above us and everything below us and everything around us, and enjoy that experience. And that was what we were meant to do here on this earth. So let's not consume too much hate, too much confusion, and too much misdirection. Let's trust ourselves and our hearts, and we'll see you next Wednesday to discuss a very important issue. We love you all. Un Mateo.